Hey, what is up you guys? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for watching this video today. On today's video, we're going to be finally installing the Greddy oil plate, and as well, I picked up a new Apexi part. But before this video gets started, let's go ahead and give this video a like and consider subscribing. So let's go ahead and jump right into the video. Okay guys, so as I said, we got a new Apexi part that we recently picked up. Couldn't really pass on this deal just because thanks to Facebook Marketplace, we were able to find a nice deal for this Apexi exhaust shield cover that's supposed to go for the GR86's Apexi N1 Extreme exhaust. So if you guys take a look, as you guys know, I have the Apexi N1 Extreme exhaust, and to be honest, this area is pretty exposed right here. As you guys can see, right where it bolts down to each of the exhaust points, we do have some leaks coming from there, but not exhaust leaks. This is just from like pops and just from over time driving with this exhaust. So don't really like how that looks. So we're definitely gonna cover this whole area up and protect the very expensive Apexi exhaust. So this Apexi exhaust shield is actually chassis mounted, so we'll be able to make sure it's properly secured and it won't shake as violently when we're driving on the road. So as you guys can see, we got the proper instructions to install this guy. We got all the manufactured brackets and bolts, and of course the rear brackets as well. As you guys can take a look right here, obviously you can't really read this off the back because it is in Japanese, so it does state that it does get mounted to the chassis, so we will have to make sure we line these up pretty properly. I'm honestly just gonna eyeball this part just because it doesn't really say where. Might have to pull out Google Translate for this, but for now, we're gonna go ahead and start with this guy first. So on the side note, you guys, we did pick up this Greddy oil baffle plate to help with oil starvation. And while we're installing this, we're also gonna be taking care of the RTV issue. So as you guys know, a lot of BRZs and Subarus are having catastrophic failure due to the RTV issue. Pretty much what I understand is from the conveyor belts from where the vehicles have been made from the factory, they're not exactly handmade or hand built, so they just have like these little robots that apply these RTV gaskets to the oil pan. And supposedly, from what I understand, is apparently the robots apply too much RTV onto the oil pan, so when this car gets hot, when you're driving pretty aggressively on it, the RTV tends to melt off into the oil pan and gets picked up by the oil pickup tube, which gets sucked into the engine. Now there is a filter for the oil pickup tube that filters out those particles, but there's also small particles that can still seep through there. So I don't know if we're gonna find a lot of RTV in here. This is the first generation GR86, so I'm pretty worried that I'm gonna have a lot of RTV built up, especially if I've been driving it pretty aggressively on local mountains and toads. So we're gonna try to take care of that today. So fingers crossed, it's nothing major we're gonna come across. But while we're gonna be taking care of this Greddy oil baffle plate, that is gonna help with oil starvation when quartering. Now, keep you guys in mind, I don't track this car yet, but I do take it to a lot of tow runs. So in any case where I'm gonna be cornering at very high speeds, I definitely wanna have something to help with that oil starvation. But for now, you guys, we're gonna wait on this for now, and we're gonna go with the easy option first, just to see how everything looks and make sure everything is properly secured, and then we can go ahead and move on to the Greddy baffle pan. Okay guys, so just give you guys a better view of the exhaust shield. So just want to let you guys know, we're going to be putting on all these hangers on just to get an idea where each of the brackets are going to line up. And we're going to get all these washers and locking washers and these spacers, but I'm not exactly too sure where did these ones go, just because when you do look on the instructions on here, it doesn't really say like right off the bat, so I'm gonna have to do some digging and figure out where these are gonna go. But for now, let's go ahead and cue the mod touch and get all these brackets on. Alright guys, so all the brackets are on, so we're going to go ahead and bring it to the car, try to line everything up, get an idea where it's going to be sitting at, and afterwards you can start taking off the bolts, because I do believe we're going to be taking off the bolts that's already on the vehicle, because these brackets are actually going to get sandwiched in between each suspension component. So we'll go ahead and do that and get this set up. Okay guys, so I think we have an understanding where we're gonna mount these up. So there's this little shield that's at the very top. There's two 10s that we're gonna have to remove, and pretty much these two brackets just pinch together with each other, and this bolt just goes straight through. And there's already a locking nut in the back, so they're both gonna be properly secured. And for the front, we're gonna have to take off these two bolts that have the lower control arms. So we're gonna have to remove both of those bolts afterwards. Everything should mount up nicely. So we're gonna go ahead and remove these two bolts and the two bolts from the top. So that was a lot harder than I expected. So pretty much that little tiny bolt that's up there, I was able to hand thread them, and I got the ones for the lower control arms on both sides, and they are threaded in. I just have to do the passenger side, and then we can finally tighten everything down. But just to give you guys a good visual on how it's coming. So far so good. So let's go and finish it up. Okay guys, so got the passenger side threaded in, so now I'm going to tighten everything down. So it is a little bit of a tight gap right here. Luckily I have a really long snap-on electric ratchet, so I'm just going to go ahead and just blast it on, and then afterwards we'll go ahead and tighten lower control arms, and then we'll focus on the bracket bolts here. Okay guys, so we got the exhaust shield finally secured. Everything has been tightened down, and this thing is really sturdy since this thing is chassis mounted. So I was told by the guy that sold me this that this is actually aerodynamic, so it's actually going to be really good for the tugs in the future. But in terms of that, I don't know if I'll probably get a bigger diffuser in the rear, but for now I am liking how this looks. Obviously I do have to clean up my exhaust. It's been raining the last couple days, but we're gonna have to do that later. And I do have to clean up the shield, but I don't have any clean microfiber towels right now, so that will have to wait. But for now, you guys, what do you guys think? The Apexi exhaust and the Apexi exhaust shield, it's coming together. Alright you guys, I'm gonna be completely honest with you. I'm pretty slumped. Probably won't do the Greddy plate tonight, so we'll have to do it in another day. But don't worry guys, this will all be in one video. Your boy is just really tired, so we're gonna continue off with the Greddy plate on the next couple days. So let's go ahead and switch over to the next time we're here. Okay you guys, so today is the day we're gonna be installing the Greddy Baffle oil plate on the GR86. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to have to be dropping the headers in order to get to the oil pan. But before we do that, I'm just going over these instructions just to make sure we're following correctly. And of course, it's in Japanese, so I have no idea what it says. So we're going to have to use Google Translate to figure it out, or hopefully find a video for that. But for the meantime, I will show you guys what we have to do in order to drop the headers. So pretty much we're on a time crunch because this place has to close pretty soon. So we're gonna go ahead and start doing it so that we can get this car out of here and making sure that the car runs okay. So let me guys show you what we're gonna have to do. Okay guys, hope you can hear me, but I just wanna let you guys know this hole and this hole, and there's one right underneath this circle shape right over here. These are actually clip holders, so I actually do have to pop those guys off in order to drop the headers because the headers are attached to that wire. So pretty much there's one hole right there, and then there's one there, and there's one there holding the wire. You just gotta pop out the clips, no problem. Now it's just dangling right down here. And of course we already got the white connector already disconnected. So I did have to disconnect this guy right here just so I can get behind that clip, just because I heard that we're it's very important that we do not damage the sensor whatsoever. So I highly recommend just disconnecting that connector so that way you don't mess up anything else. But now we can go ahead and for starters, take off my Apexi oil cap, because we will be draining the oil, and then we can load the car. Alright guys, car's in the air, so now we just gotta take off this really heavy splash shield so we can expose the headers, so let's go ahead and do that. Alright guys, so we are actually underneath the car right now, but I wanted to show you guys that little clip I was talking about was actually right here. This little piece of bracket right here just holding that clip, and it just goes into the headers, so you don't have to worry about anything else disconnecting. So what we're going to be doing now is we're going to be dropping the headers by taking off these 2 bolts right here, another 2 bolts right up here, 4 bolts total, I believe, right here, and this whole headers just drop down like it's nothing. Obviously we got the oil pan right here, but we need to get rid of the headers in order to expose the bolts. So let's go ahead and work on the headers. Okay guys, so slight hiccup. So we can't drop the headers just because these studs are holding them in place. So I actually did find out we're gonna have to take off this exhaust bracket from these 2 bolts right here, and we're actually gonna have to take off the exhaust spring bolts here just so we can have this overpipe like pretty much hang down, so that way there's a little bit of room for the studs to get away from the headers. But before I do that, I'm gonna put a little pull just so the headers hold when we do that, just so my exhaust just drop down. Then we should be able to get the headers out. So let's go ahead and remove these bolts and have a support for the headers. Alright you guys, so we actually just took off the bracket and the exhaust did drop a little bit. So we're gonna see if we can try to wiggle the headers out now. So fingers crossed. Hopefully we don't have to take off too much. Got the headers out. Alright you guys, as you can see, the headers are finally off. We honestly just had to take off these 2 bolts right over here on this bracket, and the exhaust just hangs down. It gives me a little bit of wiggle room just so we can get the studs out of these 2 holes where the overpipe is. So luckily didn't have to take off the whole exhaust, which I'm really glad for. But other than that, you guys, so we have the oil pan right here. I did not drain the oil yet, but we're gonna go ahead and do that before we take off the actual oil pan, because we do need to put a new washer or the clutch washer on the drain fill plug or the drain plug, and afterwards then we can start working on the oil pan. But pretty simple, you guys. Like honestly, these Subaru motors, when you're doing like swapping out the headers or like changing out the water pump or the drive belt, it's honestly just all right here, and it's honestly super accessible. But that's just my opinion. I don't know if anyone else has different opinions, because obviously if they take apart a Subaru engine, that's a different story. But let's go ahead and drain the oil. Okay guys, so before we actually remove the oil pan, so I'm actually gonna just double check everything, make sure I have everything for the job, just because if you do drop your oil pan and then you don't have the gasket maker, then your night's pretty much screwed because everything is closed right now. So I got everything I needed, hope, but double checking is another thing, just because if any case something happens, like we'll be able to take care of it and fix it right away and do it another day. But in the time being, let me guys show you something. So I actually ordered this Toyota OEM Seal Packing 103 FIPG sealant, which is designed for specifically for the oil pan, so the website states. I got this from Subi Mods, so I'm just gonna open it up really quick just to make sure it is the right one actually, and to make sure the gasket's the same color, because I do not want to put the wrong gasket in and then having a huge miss afterwards. So I got this tool. No idea what this is, but we do have a little funnel, which is going to be really important once we apply the filler. And of course, we got the Toyota seal packing. So I'm just going to open it up really quick just to make sure it's the right color. Yep, so far it is. So far it's black, and when I looked at the YouTube videos for the sealant that they use, it was black, so that is a good sign. So with this out of the way, so like I said before, there are 2 tools you can use to pry open the oil pan, just because it's on there pretty good. So I would say 3 tools to use. Like if you guys have this one, this is like a little hook pry bar that you can just really sandwich this little hook in between the engine block and of course the oil pan, and this should pry open. I don't really like to use this one unless there's actually an OEM gap you can use to pry down the oil pan. So I won't be using this one. Now, a lot of people do have pry bars or crowbars in order because it has a very flat, fine tip. So you can just honestly just squeeze it in between and pry it down. But I won't be using this just because this one is a little bit aggressive. So I actually happened to find this really cool tool designed for oil pans. This is a little oil pan tool separator. It has a very, very thin sheet of plastic / aluminum to go under in between the oil pan and the block. And I don't know if you guys can see this on camera, but there is a little bit of a lip on the very tip of the blade, so this would slide in really nicely. And if you guys are wondering why there's a big block at the very end right here, so this is actually used to hammer in to the oil pan, in between the oil pan and the block, so it just goes in super smooth. So we will be using this tool so that way we can have a nice clean surface so we don't gouge anything. So that being said, you guys, let us go drop the oil pan. Alright guys, so we have got it half of the oil pan released from the block. The only reason why we didn't do this because obviously we can't fit a tool in there, but as you guys can see, we have some good wiggle room, so we're gonna just pry it by force with our hands because we don't want to use a pry bar or any other tools that can scratch the block to where it meets the surface of the oil pan. So afterwards we'll drop it and see how it looks. So let's go ahead and do that. Here, oil coming out. Of course, the fucking back is still sealed. Oh, it's alright. Yeah, there's RTV right there. I'll let that jam for a bit. Let's see if there's any RTV in there. Yeah, there is. Look, see? Look at that, all those little tiny dots. That's RTV.
Oh man.
Yeah, there's definitely some in there, but it's not a lot. You can see. Alright guys, oil pan is off, so I just want to show you guys what we're dealing with here. So if you guys take a close look right inside the oil pan, we actually do have RTV pieces kind of floating around there. It is kind of hard to see on camera, but you can kind of see a little bit right here. Let me actually get a better view for you guys in a sec. Alright, so if you guys can see, we have some RTV particles floating around here somewhere. I don't know if I can have it on camera. Oh yeah, there it goes. Alright, so right here you guys got all that RTV, so that's definitely getting sucked into the engine. There is a little bit of sparkles too, so that's actually your boy's fault because we went a little crazy right in the corner mating surface right here. It is a little scratched up, so definitely took an L on this one, but we're just gonna try to smooth it down, get rid of all the RTV on there, and hopefully it doesn't leak. Fingers crossed. But obviously we gotta address the main issue, which is the RTV and the oil pickup tube. Not yet. Like trying to get a good angle on this.
To your left.
Alright, yeah. So as you guys can see, it is a little bit of a tight squeeze, but there definitely has RTV in the oil pickup tube. So we're definitely gonna get all that gunk out, and then we can install the Greddy oil plate on the oil pan surface. So I'm gonna go ahead and pick that out, and I'll show you guys what it looks like after it's out. Yep. Alright guys, so this is all the RTV that came out of the oil pickup tube, so it's definitely a good majority of them. It definitely took a lot of elbow grease to get every single of these pieces out, but I'm pretty sure we got everything cleared out from the oil pickup tube. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean off the mating surface so we can see the damage that I did, and then afterwards we'll clean up the oil pan and then apply the new Greddy Baffle plate, and then we put on the oil pan. Okay guys, so we have got the area all cleaned off. This is honestly the best that I can do. Obviously you still see some RTV, but that's not actually the gasket we're going to be applying it at. It's actually going to be this rim right around here. Not only that too, I actually went ahead and cleaned out the oil pan as well. I may have went a little overboard with the cleaning just because it's okay. Like if you see bare metal, that was mostly just paint that I removed. Should be just fine as long as I don't gouge the metal. Obviously there is some spots that are still questionable, but they are completely smooth to the touch. Everything's all set, ready to go. Now the thing that we need to do is first is put on the Greddy oil baffle pan, but obviously we got to figure out how to put it on properly because it's in Japanese. So let me get back to you guys with this. Okay guys, so I think I finally figured out what we have to do here. It's pretty much I just use translate to figure out what's going on with this baffle oil plate. So pretty much you guys, it just fits right onto the oil pan area. So we pretty much just have to like go around this oil pickup tube, fit it on there. I'm not too sure exactly how it's gonna stay in place, but in the picture shows that it did. And when we go to the oil pan, we actually have to remove these rubber seals and replace them with the white ones that come with the kit, which is actually going to be these two right here. So I'm just going to put those to the side for now, just because we might need it later on. And then we're going to go ahead and place these two on the oil pan. But I'm going to clean up the area first, and afterwards we'll go and install the oil baffle plate. Alright guys, just real quick, so I actually did make a mistake. So there's actually this little hole right here, and I didn't really think of it much, but when I actually go to the oil pickup tube, there's actually a 10mm bolt we're going to have to remove, and this whole bolt and pickup tube holds the plate upwards, so everything else should just hold up right after we remove that. So let's go ahead and take that off and then put the oil baffle plate on. Okay guys, no turning back now. Let's go do this. Alright you guys, the new RTV is on, so I got my bolts ready. I just gotta make sure the area is cleaned off pretty nicely, and afterwards we can start hand tightening it and hand threading them, and that way we can go ahead and start finishing up this job. So let's go ahead and do that. Alright guys, so just like that, the oil pan is finally on. So afterwards we got to put the headers back on, attach the exhaust bracket that's all the top right there, make sure everything is tightened down. I already triple checked all the bolts, and I did actually time down in a sequence. I'll actually show you guys, going based off of this picture diagram right over here. So it does say to use a torque wrench for 57 inch-pounds, but if I'm being with you guys, that's honestly nothing. A brushless drill and a pinky hand tight with a ratchet is just enough. Pretty much I ran around this once and then twice to tighten it, and then third time to recheck everything, so we are good to go. So now the last step is to put the head gasket, or I'm sorry, we have to put on the headers, and then we'll be able to tighten everything down finally with the car, and then be able to put oil in this thing. So let's go ahead and put the headers back on. Alright guys, so car is finally on the floor, so now we're just taking care of the oil filter and then refilling the car. So if you guys are wondering what oil do I use, I'm using the best of the best. We're using Motul Oil OW20 Eco Clean Friendly. So the reason why I like to use Motul oil, I just hear such great things about it, and when you guys are on the tote, or especially on track 2, anytime you guys reach a very high temperature, oil disperses and obviously breaks down over time. So for this type of oil, it actually is triple or even harder to disperse and to break down once it reaches those higher temperatures. Not only that too, it helps with temperatures of oil, and of course you guys can use this for daily driving as well. I like to put the best products into the GR86 because obviously we do have a certain boxer engine that's not from Toyota, so I like to make sure everything has the top notches quality, especially for this engine, because I want to make sure this car lasts for a very long time.